David, great to see you, sir.
Hey, thanks, Kevin.
All right, so this is a question I've always wanted to ask a producer. There's producers and there's executive producers. You executive produced Andover and also this new movie called Killing Diaz as well. What does EP mean and versus producer?
Okay, so in my eyes, when you're looking at a film like Andover, which is a low-budget, independent film, the typical producer, kind of executive producer roles can, I think the terms might be a little bit interchangeable, but also I think what you have to do as a producer and executive producer is you have to do anything and anything possible to make this film work. So the roles that you have take on many different faces. So you could go from the beginning with working with the script work, going on set, working with some of the actors, afterwards working with the posters, working with the trailers, many different aspects of the film. And anything that I could do to make this film work, to get it to where it is, I'm happy to do.
So you're talking to my audience. Let's say, for hypothetically, my audience does not know what this film is. Pitch it to them.
All right, it's about a brilliant geneticist who's newly married. His wife is a glass blower. Soon after they get married, they take out life insurance policies on each other. Very soon after that, her studio blows up. She dies. He's left with a few strands of her hair. He decides he's going to try and clone her and bring her back to life. So the movie is about all of the trials, the errors, all of these times with him trying to bring her back to life. And then there's also the insurance piece of it as well. So the insurance investigation, but you know, there's a love story to it as well. It's how far would you go for love? Yeah.
Now you're a local guy, which is fantastic. Talk about your local connection and kind of how you got into the Hollywood business.
So I grew up in this area. I was born in D.C. I grew up in Fairfax Station. I went to the University of Maryland. The only time I really was away was when I went to law school, which was up in Pennsylvania. And when I was in Pennsylvania, I kind of was given a dare by a girl I was living with at the time. And she said, you know, why don't you go and try and do some acting and modeling? And it really was a dare. I contacted an agent up in Pennsylvania, spoke with her. She called me in for an interview. We sat, we talked. I guess what I said she must have liked. She hired me for a job right then and there. I guess the reviews came back fairly decent. And then she started hiring me. I was working, you know, a couple of jobs a week during law school, a couple of gigs. I started doing commercials, catalogs, billboards. And from that, a casting director saw my photo, called my agent, said, we're filming something here locally. I'd like to have him on set. Now, it was a tiny role. I mean, it was really, you know, it was like a background person in something, but it was my first. It was still something. It was my first time. When I was done, when I got home, I went and I sent a thank you note to the casting director. And the casting director reached back out and she says, in all my years, I don't recall anybody ever really sending me a thank you note. And so from that point, then she started putting me in things. So it started branching out, and then I became a member of the Screen Actors Guild in the late 90s and just started doing lots of work, you know, whenever I could, up until the point of starting a business and starting a family. You know, I was trying to work a lot in that industry.
Now, you actually do a little bit of a Hitchcock and Night Shyamalan thing in your films. You have a cameo in this film as an orthodontist and also in Killing Diaz as an officer, I was reading. Talk about how you chose to, and also your daughter in real life is actually in Andover. Talk about kind of putting your own self and also your own family into your work.
Sure. You know, it's always fun to be able to be in the movie. You know, people always think, you know, how cool it would be. And especially then when you have a daughter. My daughter's been acting since she was 3 years old. And it's fantastic when you get to work together on the same project. She has a little bit of a bigger role than I do in Andover and also in Killing Diaz, and she's the first to point that out, that she has a bigger role than Dad.
She does. All right, so for our audiences, where can they find the film and where do you prefer people to watch? I know it came out in theaters for a limited run. Where can people buy the film and watch the film?
So right now what we're saying is Amazon Prime, you know, at Amazon Prime, you know, hashtag Amazon Prime. And it's also available on iTunes. Great. So those are the two main areas that most people can get the film right now.
All right, so we're continuing our conversation. We just finished our first 5 minutes of our interview in the studio. Now we're in the green room here. So, you know, talking to a producer here, executive producer of Andover, also Killing Diaz. I'm kind of curious how you chose the cameras you were using for this film and like with the style of how you wanted to look.
So I think, you know, leaving that aspect of it mainly to, you know, our writer and director, Scott Perlman, who did a fantastic job. I mean, Scott had a vision from this from the get-go. Scott knew going in that some of his favorite movies were like a Groundhog Day,
yes,
and bringing things back to that extent, that he knew, you know, exactly what he was looking for, and this was really his baby for the most part.
Yeah.
So bringing him in, having him, you know, in charge of everything, and knowing exactly, I mean, we really let him run the show. Now, this was his first big movie that he did, and he does a fantastic job with it.
There's a line, which I believe also in the trailers, where he's telling her he loves her more than life itself. And I think to me, what you have to do in this movie, and what you do well, and what the filmmakers do well, is you got to build their relationship in a short period of time and make us believe these people are really truly in love with each other, so that the impact of what happens and then the ladder of what happens with the cloning aspect really kind of feels, and you feel what's going on with the husband. Talk about what it was to design that emotion and get it in as quick as you could in the beginning, because you kind of have to invest the audience quickly.
So you really want to go back a few steps from that, from the actual filming itself. Was the first few days on set, when everybody was there, everybody got along so well, and the chemistry between everybody was just fantastic, and you could feel that on set. And everybody was just so willing to work with each other. Nobody was, you know, bigger than this, no one was bigger than that, and everybody knew going in that this was going to be a quick shoot. It was a low budget shoot. Everybody had to get down to business pretty quickly. And I think that Jonathan Silverman and Jennifer Finnigan do a fantastic job. Now, they are married in real life,
which is awesome.
So,
which is crazy to think about. I can't imagine like having to film some of these scenes knowing that. You know what I mean?
And that really will draw out your emotion. I mean,
yes.
Picture this. Picture you and your wife, and you
having to pretend that she's dead.
Correct.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do wonder though. So as you're filming the movie and that dynamic is occurring, do you kind of go up to him and like, is it a little weird to kind of pretend your wife is dying or dead? It's kind of crazy.
It's definitely weird, but it certainly helps you put yourself in that position and makes the acting real. I mean, you really can feel for the guy. Now, the guy's going a little crazy in the movie. I mean, the things that he's doing are just unbelievable. Someone, you know, who was going to do something like this, it's very dark. But it makes you think, how far would you go for love?
Would you do it?
That's a good question. I mean, if you found that person that you loved and you're crossing so many thresholds, you really would have to take a step back, think about these things, and you know, I think there's a lot of people out there
that would make that decision.
Who would make that decision.
Well, I think you will never know until you're in that position what you would do, and I think the movie finds that balance of it doesn't seem like he makes the decision before thinking about it. It's an emotional decision versus almost a logical decision at first, and I think the consequences kind of pan out throughout the film. Before we let you go, one of the things I love about what you did here is the poster. Posters are very important, and I told you that I did not really understand the significance of the poster until after seeing. So I'm wondering, you know, talk about constructing that poster, where that came from, whose idea was that? Because it's so cool to see the multiple versions of her. It's really well done.
And what's interesting is that we have multiple posters. So we actually started with one poster, and when we went to certain film festivals, we had a particular poster.
Oh, cool.
And then after that film festival, it got changed to a different poster. And then finally what happened was we got to this poster that we felt was really the best one to use.
That's awesome.